Hello, everyone, and welcome to the STLTechTalk podcast. My name is JJ Ham, and we have another great show for you tonight. Are you ready for the top tech news stories of the week, applications that you should try on your favorite gadgets, fun and lively commentary, and, of course, our very special guest interview? Former sell-side equities analyst, covered names like Walmart and Target, also stock analyst, traveled around the U.S. speaking of brewers to find out how to get people what they want and need, wants to bring beer to the masses in a new and innovative way. Say hello, Steve Young.
Hey, guys.
Thank you so much for being on the show. We can't thank you enough. We really appreciate it. This show is not possible, however, without my good friend, editor-in-chief of the STLTechTalk.com website, as well as producer of Codecast, another show that we have. Say hello, Kevin Harvell.
Hello, everybody, and welcome tonight.
Yeah. It's good to be back. It's good to have everybody back. But we're also joined tonight by our very sexy and new contributor to the site. Watch out. It's a Mac. No, it's a PC. Wait, it's Alejandro Ramirez. Say hello, Alejandro.
Hey, guys. Good to be here tonight. We have a great show for everybody, so be ready.
For sure. Okay, so, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter, STLTechTalk / STLTechTalk on Facebook, Google+. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Windows Phone, TuneIn Radio, or go to our site and you can get the feed directly, or download the wonderful app that Andy Long created for us, and you can actually listen to it on your Windows phone that way. Also, go to STLTechTalk.com to keep up with our tech news, podcast, Codecast, and find out how you can advertise with us or hire us to consult you on your technological needs. And don't forget, you can interact with the show by sending us feedback to podcast@STLTechTalk.com. And if you're watching us live, you can ask us questions via the chat room, and we'll do our best to answer those questions in a timely manner. And special thank yous go out tonight from Kevin and JJ to a plethora of people. So I'm going to try to run through this quick. Daryl Pritchard, thank you so much for listening and engaging with me on Twitter as well. John Peterson, our guest last night for Codecast, a wonderful talk we had about code of conduct. It's not a very sexy topic, but once you get into it, it's very informative and something everybody should know. I want to also thank Trina Carson, Jen, Heather, Matt, Mark, all from the Microsoft Store, for allowing us to cover the events of last week's Small Business Week. Also, the Surface Pro 3 announcement, which we're going to be talking about here in just a little bit, and I covered that on Tuesday. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. We were able to reach out to a whole bunch of small businesses and gain the market, if you will, on the tech scene here in St. Louis. I feel like we grew because of your help, and we're really looking forward to hosting future events at the store and other events like that in the future. And also, thank you for letting me and Alejandro do a live show from the Microsoft Store last week. The audio still isn't up yet, guys, so it's going to be a little weird for you because you're going to hear this episode probably first and that other one after that, but that's neither here nor there. That's Kevin's fault, not mine. No, I'm just messing with you, Kevin. Nothing but love. So we want to thank the entire Windows Phone Meetup group. You guys are a great live audience, and also all the business people that showed up that night to be a part of the live show. It was a lot of fun. The recording wasn't awesome as far as video goes, but the audio, I think, is going to be just fine. So that was the people that we wanted to thank. Also, we wanted to thank KCDC, Kansas City Developer Conference, for being so accommodating of Kevin and Gus. We definitely appreciate that. And we appreciate everybody who's engaged with us this week on Twitter. We're going to be sending out thank yous as well for the rest of the night. Just to try to keep up. So thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. But as we do at the top of every story, we're going to start with the latest news from the last couple of weeks. Actually, the last couple of weeks, that's what we're going to do. And Kevin, go ahead and get us started. And Steve, jump in whenever or wherever and comment on any of these stories if you so desire. Kevin, go ahead with your first news story.
All right, the court battle on Lyft, the ride-sharing service here that's wanting to launch here in St. Louis, is wrapped up in the courts. So now it's getting ready to go into, like final arguments and, closing remarks, stuff like that. Lieutenant Governor Kinder was in town to testify. There's been Carla Spencer, I believe, from Nebula. She testified today. A few other people have testified. Lyft is still trying to get around the Metropolitan Taxi Cab Commission. Has got a cease and desist, do not, temporary restraining order, I believe, to not operate here in St. Louis because it's violating some of the MTC's rules and regulations of whether or not they're a taxi service or they're not a taxi service. So we're just, Aubrey Bates, from trackbill.com, and also going to be helping us with STLTechTalk that's going to be launching here in a couple weeks. She enjoyed the opportunity whenever she got to use them on opening night when they launched back, I think it was back in April.
Criminal, breaking the law.
I know. It's a good thing they didn't get pulled over, but no, it went well. She really liked the experience, and you can also always go to STLTechTalk.com and read her experience. Just do a quick search for Lyft, Lyft. So, what are your guys' thoughts on Lyft? We're still waiting for it to go live for everybody and come back.
So my first initial thought, here is also I just want to do a quick plug as well. Aubrey released another article on our site as well, so we encourage everybody to go check that out on our site. But this again is just one of those situations where we're talking about an older establishment, and I'm not saying that it's bad, and I'm not against union. I'm not against any of that stuff, but it's one of those things where the future's happening now. And they need to figure out how to deal with it in a manner that is business-centric instead of trying to stop innovation, because they won't be able to do that. I mean, you can try for as long as you want to, but eventually it's going to get worn down. And that's really difficult for a lot of people who work in the public transit system, especially in St. Louis. But you guys, it's one of those things where, we want to try and save your jobs, obviously, but the future is here, and people are going to figure out a way to do an alternative means of transport, of getting around. So that's my initial thoughts. Like we had a couple weeks ago, and I believe a couple of people didn't even have a chance to speak with us because they were in these hearings. So this has been a pretty big deal in the St. Louis area. But I think that this type of activity is going on around the country. But it's especially strong here because of the strong union. So again, that confrontation from the old and the new way of doing things is going to continue to go until the old way figures out a system in which they can compete with some of these newer, more advanced ways of communicating taxis and that.
Now, Steve, did you get a chance to try them before they had to temporarily shut down?
Yeah, and I mean, what you have here, and I'll just relate it just because I'm going to be giving the perspective on the beer side. You have the exact same thing going on in the craft beer industry where, they still operate under the same distribution laws as the Prohibition era. And so taxis made sense for the last maybe 80 years. Distribution for beer made sense maybe for the last 80 years. But you got to look at the technology we have now, what's available. Does it really make sense? You look at where they break through, and I think this is where the taxi, organizations are probably going to have a hard time with it, where in the beer, wine, alcohol industry, the wine industry proved that it was good for agriculture, small businesses, and taxes. And all of a sudden the laws broke, and that's why you can ship wine long distance. I think in beer, and in the case of the Lyft scenario, it's going to be the exact same situation to where we can already prove in San Francisco when Uber launched, and in Seattle where they're having Lyft and Uber share 30% of the taxi ride. It's so much better for small businesses. You have a lot more independent, basically, business owners that operate under the Lyft and Uber models. And it's good for taxes because they're paying it directly right back to the city. So I think the taxis are going to have a hard one with this.
Agreed. Alejandro?
Yeah, there's also there has been a lot of criticism at the way of the initial reaction against Lyft. I think that some of the actions were too harsh. They could be, I'm not a lawyer, but they seem to have been in some degree not necessary. And there's been all kinds of litigation arguments. They've thrown out that the app is not a meter, so they cannot prove that it's really a taxi service. And for those of you who understand law better than I do, I'm sure you know the fine print. But the reality is that this is a disruptive technology, and those who are used to the status quo are going to throw everything they know from their old books to try to dismantle it. But I think change is coming anyway, so might as well try to coexist with it.
Well, and Alejandro, to your point, for those watching right now that maybe aren't from St. Louis, they actually, the day that Lyft launched, they would pull people over in Lyft cars, make the passengers get out on the middle of the road, and ticket the car and make them drive away. Like, to me, that's just absurd, the extremes that they went to.
Yeah, just leave you straight in the middle of the street, basically.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the serving of the warrant, I think it's basically the way they cited them to go to court. All of the paperwork that was served apparently was excessive, and that's what the lawyers right now defending the case are looking at. So we hope for the best, which is progress.
Right.
Progress in the 21st
That's right.
century. That's what we want, right? So I'm up with my next news story. Everybody stop talking. The Surface Pro 3 came out on Tuesday, and obviously this is a part of a larger conversation that ties in both Chromebooks, Android, Mac owners, iPhone, iPad, all of that, and ties in everything into this conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and get it kicked off with just the basics. We're talking about a machine that was designed to compete on the highest end levels with the MacBook Pros and the notebooks and the Ultrabooks that are out there on the market. It's meant to be a laptop replacement, a fully functional laptop replacement, as opposed to a tablet laptop hybrid. Obviously, it still has that, but it's focused more on being an all-in-one device, almost like an all-in-one desktop, but that's portable. That takes away the need to have an iPad or a tablet and a laptop at the same time. We heard from Microsoft CEO as well as Mr. Panay. He came out and talked about the benefits and the design quality and the slim profile. It's actually lighter and smaller than what most people would have thought. Obviously, most tech pundits were wrong when they were talking about a Surface Mini release. No one really saw this one coming in its current form, and as advanced as it is, with so many different pricing options as well as hardware, and the ability for the different pricing tiers, i3, i5, i7, Intel chip processors that have everywhere from 4 gigabytes all the way up to 8 gigabytes of RAM, with massive storage options to choose from. Also, this changes the landscape a little bit for the current Surface devices for people that do have those. The docking station is not compatible with the new device. There's just so much to unpack here. Long story short, it came out and it reached a lot of fanfare. Personally, I did a live blog from the Microsoft Store. We were able to talk and discuss a little bit about the new device. I do think that it competes with every other device that's high-end. Alejandro can probably back me up when I say that. But let's talk about that a little bit. Alejandro, I'd like to get your first reactions of what you think of the Surface Pro 3, and let's talk a little bit about, since you're a Mac guy, how it competes with the Retina or things like that.
So there's definitely a direct competitor of the MacBook Air, which is what they used to do the weight comparison. If you remember when they were showing the Mac on one side and the Surface Pro 3 on the other side, the higher resolution is definitely something that is challenging the likes of the Retina. The Retina was the first technology of its kind to come, and it pushed really beyond the limits. But then after that, with 4K, they started coming with Quad HD displays on laptops and Ultrabooks. You can find it on the Lenovo Yoga 2, where in a very tiny package you get all this massive pack resolution. And now with the Surface Pro going big, I have to tell you, I was super excited when the first Surface came out. I put $50 down to reserve it at Best Buy, and I'm gonna tell you how much even more excited I am today, or the day of the announcement when this new one came out, because it's truthfully, like they mentioned, like Pane said on the announcement, everybody that has a laptop has some sort of tablet, and vice versa, and they're finding out that they're just carrying too many devices, and this really challenges a very specific niche. They basically said, we cannot beat the iPad in its turf, but what we're going after is a very specific need in the market, which is those of us who carry those two devices to do things in halves, because we have to do certain things with the tablet, and then when we cannot do it, we jump back to the laptop, and when we get tired of carrying the laptop, we jump back to the tablet, and so forth. And I think the Surface Pro is nailing it. Every review article that I have seen, with some exceptions, there's always some harsh critic, but every article that I have seen without sounding biased has been really positive, really highlighting how that specific niche that they're targeting is dead on, that everything that the Surface got wrong in the past, which to me wasn't really much, I really like my Surface Pro 1, but everything that in the eyes of the public who's used to the iPads of the world that they got wrong, it's light, it's powerful, there is no compromise, you can run a tablet-like experience, and you can run a notebook-like experience.
Absolutely, Kevin. What's your thoughts on this device? We haven't actually talked at all.
Yeah, we haven't really had too much time.
Yeah.
No, but by kind of getting a chance to watch and listen to the, the keynote and the event, and watch what Pate was doing. I mean, he put that did the weight thing. The one thing I don't remember is with the MacBook. I know that's the full laptop. On the Surface side of the scale, did he have the touch cover, type cover, or anything like that? So that was attached.
And the pen.
Okay.
For what it's worth.
All right, and yeah, you just saw that go boop. It was really much lighter than the MacBook. And then there was also an image floating around today of the thickness, showing off how thin the new Surface Pro 3 is compared to an iPhone 5S, for example.
Yeah, here's a 5 for reference.
Yeah, it's about the same thickness.
It's about the same thickness. Yeah, that's pretty amazing that they were able to scale it in that kind of device. So I fall into the camp where if I could get this thing tomorrow, I would. I'm not going to, and it's not because I don't want to. It's simply because, well, I have a Pro, and I've got a nice docking station for it now, and I'm not really the target audience for it because I've got everything for my Pro. I got the power cover, I've got the type cover, I've actually got the dock and all this other kind of stuff. So I'm not going to need to upgrade for a while, but I do believe that they're addressing the future. I believe that they're addressing a market that they fell behind in, because during the Surface event, and the reason why I'm talking about this so much is because every business, small business, either if it's a brewery all the way up to a big business, you're going through hardware, and you're always thinking about what can I get next that can protect myself a little bit here, and that's actually worth the buy. That's going to be not future proof, but I can hang on to for a little while. It's not going to completely go out of style. And I think that this device addresses that new need of people saying, wow, I can get that much power in a tablet-like device instead of having two separate devices, and it's a no kind of compromise device. So when they panned out during the presentation, for most of you of our audience, you guys probably watched it. For those of you who didn't, they panned out to the audience, and there was just a plethora of MacBooks out there, and that's the audience they're going after, and that's why I wanted to hear from Alejandro what he thought, especially because we had actually talked a little bit, Alejandro and I, about because he was at first going, oh well, it doesn't, the Retina, he was kind of beating it up a little bit, and rightfully so. I mean, that's kind of his backyard. I get that, right? But at the same, then he kind of came around and was like, nah, I'm just mad because I want to get one right now. So.
Well, I do confess that after the Surface came out, I stopped using my iPad, and honestly, the iPad is still sitting where I left it probably 6-8 months ago. I have had my Surface for a whole year, and I stopped using the iPad literally because I'm more of a power user. So just putting it out there.
So, guys, Kevin, first, do you think that this is going to resonate a little bit with more education, like it's not to combat the Chromebooks of the world, but Microsoft is definitely showing that with their Surface 2 lineup and even what future Surface products is going to look like, that they're trying to address this in that fashion, or do you think that that's off base and that they completely with the price, because right now the pricing is $1,000 for the lowest base model. So right. Do you think that they're pricing themselves out of this market and saying goodbye?
Yes, I do, and I also think my biggest complaint about the Surface Pro 3 is there's too many different configurations. I mean, you've got an i3, then you've got an i5 with this amount of storage, then you got i7s with multiple different kinds of amounts of storage. I just think there's too many options. If your average consumer that would be willing to spend that kind of money walks in, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm not sure which one to get. I mean, that is all based on their storage needs, obviously. But I kind of wish they would have just kept it a little bit simpler.
Absolutely. There was a guy. I talked to two separate people, a guy and a gal in a Microsoft store, and this i5 to i7 both have 8 gigs of RAM, but there's a $300 difference. And they said, which one should I buy? They came to me and they go, I know what they're telling me, but which one should I buy? And I don't. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it at the same time. Like, why would you do this? You know what I mean?
Well, the advice is always buy as much as you can afford because it's future-proof. If you can afford the i7 and you do a lot of Photoshop, I run Photoshop on my Surface Pro. It's an i5. Do I wish it were faster? Well, of course I do. I think an i7 will be great. Now, the price makes it a little bit tight to jump that because the options are, well, do I go from this same price point to a fully blown laptop or something in the Ultrabook area? So I think, like Kevin, I agree. I wish we would have had less choices, a little bit more. It makes it a lot easier for the critics. It makes it a lot easier for the public to make choices too.
So, Steve, I don't, what when you hear what we're talking about here, what do you see out in the field most, and do you think that a device that has this capability, that's more of a PC than kind of an iPad scenario, do you see this being a good business solution, or where do you fall on these tablet laptop replacements?
Yeah, I mean, coming from the standpoint of like a not techie person at all,
sure.
I'll describe it as, so in my past job, trading stocks and everything, when I first started about 4.5 years ago, everybody had a BlackBerry, and I was the only one that had an iPhone. I remember the confusion was, well, security risks and all that other stuff, and everybody laughed at me, and it was fun. But I remember when people started to bring it to meetings and presentations, that's when I knew that the iPhone, the technology was really kind of integrated into what everybody was doing. And I think when we start to see this technology integrated in where people are using it in presentations, but they're also using it to work at, once that happens, I don't think the price point will really matter at that point, because then it'll start to become ubiquitous from a performance standpoint. But before that, I mean, you just have all these fragmented technologies. I have the Kindle Fire here right now, which you laugh at, but I use it because it has a good camera and because I can read books, but it is absolutely garbage after everything like that.
Sure.
And if I could have an integrated platform, yeah, $1,000 I'd pay for it,
Yeah, and two, we should mention that you can have a Kindle app on there. You can have a camera on there. You can have music. So you can even download iTunes on this thing. You can download all the old Win32 apps and applications that run on the desktop and stuff. And plus, you got the Metro application. So a lot of people kind of cringe at the price point, but when you get rid of your Kindle, your iPad, your maybe a Nexus device or something like that, if you're getting rid of all that stuff and then you weigh the cost there and you're like, I have just this one device, you're right. I mean that the price kind of, I mean it kind of makes more sense because it's an all-in-one type device. Because back in the day you had a BlackBerry and then some type of music player. And when the iPhone came out and those two things came together, I mean, even though it was a little bit more expensive, man, it was worth the buy because you could have both things in one. So I totally get that. I totally get that. Kevin, what's your final thoughts on the Pro talk? We've been talking about this for too long. We need to move on.
Yeah, it pretty much echoes James's question. I mean, which we touched on a little while ago about too many options and stuff. But I definitely would not pass up the opportunity to buy one if money was right and everything at the same time. So, any Microsoft people watching, we want to give us a nice little discount. Hey, right here.
Here's looking at
you. If I may say that I found today in the Microsoft Store that they have a trade-in deal going on through the first week of June. If you take an iPad 2, iPad 3, iPad mini, or other devices, you get a minimum of a 200 store credit towards the Surface. It says towards the Surface 2. I bet if you talk them into them, I get it into your pre-order of a Surface 3.
Sure.
Yeah. Demand's going to be high for the 3. I mean, we already know how high demand was and how much trouble they had keeping up with the orders for the Pro 2, especially with the higher storage solutions. So demand for this Pro 3 is going to be tough to find for a while unless you know somebody. So
absolutely, and the new hinge and stuff and all that, it's an awesome device. Alejandro, you're up with your next news story, sir.
Yeah, the next news is not good news for iPhone users, and I actually experienced this myself, but to summarize the issue, Apple has actually recognized a problem with iMessages. iMessages is their proprietary texting tool which allows you to not use your text message plan and send text messages to other iPhone or rather iOS users. It actually works also on your Mac. So just to show you really quickly what I'm talking about, it just looks like a texting application, but once you enable it, other users that are on iOS devices and on a Mac running the messaging app can get those text messages for free. The problem is when a user leaves the iOS ecosystem, and let's say you buy an Android device or a Windows phone, those users are not getting any text messages because the device that was originally connected in your account to send text messages via iMessages, which was verifying it first, is not finding that device exists, so it still sends it to the old device.
Right. So you don't get the messages from other iOS users.
Yeah, you won't get any of those messages to your account. So I experienced that by doing some testing on my Lumia 1520. I changed the SIM card, and my wife was texting me, and she's like, "Why are you not getting my text messages?" And then I had my iPhone on the Wi-Fi, and I was getting all of the messages. So Apple actually issued a statement recognizing that they have that problem, and it is rumored that the upcoming update to iOS 7.12 may fix that issue. But right now, they don't really have a solution.
Yeah, whereas before, actually, what you had to do is you had to turn off, you had to like go into your settings and turn off iMessage, or you had to change some message settings, because I had that same problem whenever, bouncing back and forth between iPhone and Android. People are like, hey, I've been texting you, you're not getting back to me. I'm like, so I turned the iPhone back up, and all of a sudden it just started, all these messages started pop up. I'm like, oh, wow.
If you're surrendering your device, that's what they're recommending, to turn that service off. Just go to your iPhone and under the iMessaging and turn it off, and then take the SIM card out and go to the other device.
I just think it's funny that now all of a sudden it's like getting big media, it's getting reported more. And I'm like, this has been a problem for a long time.
If you think about it, I don't think in the past people were abandoning ship on the iPhone. Now there is so much more offer the other devices that it's interesting that Apple actually are seeing people abandoning ship. So
yeah,
it's
so I mean,
a sign of the times.
Yeah, I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean a lot of people are jumping ship to other platforms from iPhones, or what, that it's getting this kind of coverage? I don't know.
Well, and I know that this actually happened to people who just switched different iPhones. So maybe it was enabled on one device and it was disabled on another. I've seen this happen to people switching iPhone types before. So
that is true too. It also affects that. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, so maybe not necessarily abandonment. You know, maybe it's just a combination of all those things. It's a perfect storm. So that's definitely something that we're going to keep our eye on for sure. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with the next release and the updates, and also what happens during WWDC. And we're going to be talking about that in a little while. Kevin, you're up with your next story, sir.
All right. So we mentioned this a couple weeks ago. AT&T is apparently really going to buy DirecTV, and they're going to be spending a whopping $48.5 billion to do so. So,
With a B.
Yeah, what was a rumor is apparently going to become a reality if they can get everything, all the I's dotted and T's crossed through the government and antitrust regulations and all that. It'll become probably the second largest cable television provider compared to the Time Warner Comcast conglomerate that is, I guess that's deals happening. I know they've talked about it. I don't know if it's finalized yet.
Not yet. But, there are some serious hurdles with this DirecTV deal, we should note. There's a lot of backing out that AT&T learned its lesson when it tried to, wasn't it by T-Mobile, I think it was?
Yes.
And they had to pay out because the deal didn't go through, so they actually had to pay $5 billion.
To T-Mobile.
Yeah, that was not good. So they've made a lot of safeguards during this deal just in case if it falls through. But this is a kind of a more serious discussion about what the landscape is going to look like going forward for these providers and stuff. Steve, what type of service do you consume content through? Do you have a dish? Do you have cable? Do you a cord cutter? What kind of entertainment do you enjoy?
Yeah, I have a charter cable. So
okay.
One of the indicators to me, and I've said this to a lot of people, and I think it's interesting, but you look at how many commercials are actually being run by charter. I mean, everything from business internet and whatever TV premium packages and hey, we're hiring new salespeople. When I see that, I think two things. One, it's like a cry for help that, oh my gosh, we need your attention. But two, it's I know that my dollars going into it are just going to advertising versus building their infrastructure or something like that. And so I know that's a little bit off topic, but when you start to see red flags like that popping up, it's just, I don't know, it's a shaky sign for cable in general.
Yeah, and cable still, in a lot of places, especially rural, deliver the fastest broadband speeds, way faster than some of AT&T's speeds that you can get through, the old copper lines. Because not everywhere has the fiber yet. So there's a lot of concern there, because a lot of money could be pushed back into those services and build out a more rich backbone. That's one of those things where we as the consumers get frustrated because we want things to move forward in the right direction, and we don't want those companies to cut corners, but sometimes they do, and we're left paying for a service that kind of goes in and out, and that's a very frustrating thing. Kevin, what's your I'm sorry, not Kevin, but Alejandro, what do you think about this news story?
Quite frankly, I don't care if they want to spend money on this or on that. The part that I really care about is what is that going to mean to me as a consumer. As I see, and I've mentioned it before, the bundling is nice. You get cheaper services, and it's a game every year. When you're out of your 12-month deal, you have to call back and renegotiate. But it keeps getting cheaper apparently.
Yeah, but you get a landline. Who wants that?
Right, exactly.
Right.
So I honestly, it's kind of a joke. It seems like everybody's spending just billions with a B lately. It's like, oh, we're gonna buy this, we're gonna buy that. I don't know if it's just a game of Monopoly or why they want to get so large with this. Perhaps is the business of pay-per-view that they try to spin with this type of technology. But I don't know. Missouri has too many trees. I live in 3 or 4 different places around here, and I have never been able to get DirecTV. So I really have very little context to say, yay, DirecTV, or
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
So Alejandro, go ahead and keep it on with your talk and tell us a little bit about eBay and what happened this week.
Well, that's a quick story. eBay got attacked and their passwords were stolen. So if you have an eBay account, eBay has issued a statement, go change your password right now. They have taken measurements against it, but if you, again, I repeat, if you have an eBay account, go change your password right now.
Now.
Yeah, to piggyback on the next story, because we're tied in on time, another bad news. It seems like it's the night of the bad news. Nest, if you remember the Nest thermostat, they created the Nest smoke detector. I forget what the actual name of the product was. The Nest Protect was the name. Well, it has a feature called Wave, which allows you to, without having to go all over to your ceiling and tap a button to stop the alarm when maybe you're cooking and you have a false alarm. But apparently, through testing in their labs, they found out that the device could actually prematurely just stop ringing in case of an actual alarm. So they're recalling all of the devices. They're all going back to the factory.
Wow.
Wow.
I always thought
That's
you had
a lot
to
of money.
just pull the battery to silence the smoke alarm.
No, and they're going to remove the feature. They're going to try to push a software update to remove the feature, but they're actually recalling all of them.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. That is very interesting. Kevin, why don't you go ahead and let's see now, Kevin. That's me. I'm up. My last thing. This is what I want to talk about a little bit real quick. Driverless cars could cripple law enforcement's budget in the U.S. because approximately 41 million people receive speeding tickets every year. That makes up for about $6.2 billion in revenue for the local law enforcement agencies. So that is an interesting turn of events.
Yeah,
So,
actually that is.
maybe they can spend some more time doing, things that matter. Won't get into what those things exactly are, but that's neither here nor there.
So what will lawyers do? I mean, the Traffic Law Center, that's like their biggest thing. That and DWIs fixing speeding tickets.
Hopefully they're,
They're going to keep bugging Lyft.
Yeah, there you go. Well, they got to keep the dream alive somehow. There's always somebody somewhere trying to get messed over. So that ends our normal news rundown segment of this show. Up next is our tech ticker of the week. Microsoft stock started off at $39.66, but then moved up to $40.10, ending with a ride. I should say the appearance of the CEO Satya Nadella made a public appearance in New York City for the Surface Pro 3 announcement, but that is not all of the news that drove the stock this week to keep their value strong. The change in price from the Xbox One, which we didn't talk about tonight, but I'm talking about right now, from $499.99 to $399.99 is a change of $100, which actually makes a difference to people because in their choice between PlayStation and Xbox One, honestly, money talks. Also, no one thought Microsoft would make that change, but I think under the new leadership of Satya Nadella, I think that we're seeing a more agile, responsive, user feedback, what market demands type of company. Apple stock, was started at $589 a share to $607 a share. The stock is looking good now for Apple's Beats deal, also with the expected that's expected to close, and the upcoming WWDC, which is essentially Apple's big announcement for their new devices. I'm sure there's going to be a plethora of them. There's also talk of an i3D printer. That's going to be interesting to watch. NFC possibility with the new iPhone, which will bring up some of the competing platforms as a viable alternative to some of the other things that Apple kind of dismissed in the past. Many analysts say that Apple has to come out with something big soon to continue to drive their stock upwards. And that, is kind of what we hear every year from them. But Google stock, $519.81 to $545 ended. The stock is also feeling the heat of the upcoming summer with pressure to use its $30 billion that it currently holds outside of the United States for tax purposes, obviously, because they're not an evil company, remember? Also, the French government wants Google to forget That's not going to happen. Self-driving cars, and now offering free Wi-Fi to companies that use their equipment. Disclaimer, this is probably speculation on my part, but I think they want to advertise based on their user search. Sounds about right to me. So that ends our Tech Ticker segment of the show. Thank you to everybody who's participated. If you want to be a part of the conversation, go to podcast@stltechtalk.com or email us there, rather, or hit us up on the any of the interwebs and the social networks. So let's get down to the reason why we're here tonight, which is to interview Steve Young about a Synek Draft System. This is very cool, very interesting to a lot of alcoholics. I mean, people who like to drink alcohol out there. We're very excited to have you on the show, so thank you so much for being on. We can't thank you enough. I'm going to go ahead and throw out the first question. How did the Synek Draft System come about?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of goes back to my stock days. I've always been fascinated with companies, industries, how things work, and I was fascinated with the beer industry, not more on the beer side, but more because of the growth in brands and the cool, unique type of breweries that were opening up. And so I just did what I did with the stock coverage, and I just started talking to as many brewers as I could. Travel across the country, 30, 50 different brewers. From the West Coast all the way to the East Coast. And the more people I talked to, the more I realized they all kind of suffered from the same problem, which was they make great beer, but it's really hard for them to get it into people's homes and make money from it. Sure. And a lot of people pointed to the distributors as the issue, and in a lot of ways, distributors are. But you still got half the breweries in the U.S. that can't afford to bottle. Distributors still struggle to transport bottles and cans to retailers, and retailers have a limited shelf space. So if you take it a step further, it's not really a distribution issue; it's a packaging issue. You haven't seen the change in packaging since about a decade before the moon landing, and I said, okay, if anybody can solve this issue and change the packaging, you can completely renovate and change the industry. And so, literally, quit my job on the spot, 2 weeks after one of the best reviews I've had at that job. So it was kind of a surprise to most people, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I assembled a team of beer experts who knew, infinitely more about beer than I did, and it's been, kind of a long, crazy process. But as of, a month ago, we finally had the first working functional prototype ever. So we developed a brand new packaging. It's the first ever flexible packaging that can hold carbonated beverages, so champagne, beer, soda. It acts as a better gas barrier than bottles, meaning good quality, and it doesn't alter the taste, which is really important to brewers. And that cartridge, kind of like a Keurig, but that cartridge holds a gallon of beer. It interacts with our dispenser, and it gives people access to any beer ever made fresh on their kitchen countertop.
That's amazing. I'm sure Gus can talk about our Gus. Jeez, Kevin could talk about beer for the rest of the night. So, Kevin, what when you first hear this, what were your thoughts when you first heard about this?
My thoughts was, when Aubrey first told me about you, Steve, and what you had going on. I mean, my jaw just dropped because it was not too long before that I had tried out the Draft Mark system from Anheuser-Busch, and it's a big, bulky, long football-looking. It's like putting a case of soda in your refrigerator. It just takes up that space, and you're limited to just what products you can find in your local grocery store. And the equipment, you have to keep the refills and stuff, and like I said, you're limited. It just was not very simple, and I really wasn't too happy with my experience with it. So honestly, I haven't used it since. And whenever she told me about this and I saw that, I'm like, I love Keurig machines. It's just great. You want just a single cup of coffee, boom, put your cup in, place your mug down there, make sure you got water, turn it on, boom, there you go, cup of coffee. And by having this right there on your countertop, I think that's just such a great idea. I mean, mad props to you and everybody you've got working with to come up with this idea. And I'm pretty excited about what you guys have coming down the pipe here.
No,
Absolutely.
So tell us about some of the hurdles that Synek has had to overcome to get to this point of being 20-something days away from launching a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's really been finding the right team members. I don't know a damn thing about engineering. I don't have a bone in my body that's engineering. So, I needed to find people that were capable, find people that were willing to do it without asking for, hundreds of thousands of dollars, willing to work for equity or just give, some free advice on the side, and really kind of believed in the vision. Like here we have this disruptive idea and technology that I'm trying to pitch people on. And at the very beginning stages, it was hard just to get the right people on board. Now that we've made some accomplishments and people can see it, touch it, feel it, it's a lot easier to to reach out to those folks. But that has probably been by far the hardest thing from the get-go.
Sweet. So Alejandro, do you have anything you'd like to ask here?
Yeah, well, first I have to say, wow, I think this is gonna change definitely breakfast for everybody. Secondly, I'm just excited. I just like Kevin, I love the Keurig concept, and I know this is not like Keurig, but it definitely brings the pub crawl to your place, and so that's really interesting. My question to you is in regards to patents and dealing with that type of legal situation. What experience did you have either patenting this, researching existing patents? Think of the possible people in the audience who are going through the process of developing a new product. What was your experience through all of this with that?
Yeah, I mean, the patent landscape has changed significantly just in the last year. March last year, instead of first to concept, it's first to file, and it really is getting your ideas and just filing it right away. I mean, even if you go on, LegalZoom and do, a $250 filing, at least you get it in the bank, and you can kind of simmer on it for a year until you can either know whether or not it's a good idea to get more money and put more professional services to it. We have about 7, 8, if you want to include one of them, but 8 provisional patents kind of baked in one. That'll give us just as many patents as Anheuser-Busch as an entire corporation. Yeah, which all the beer industry, a lot of it has just been technology. I'll tell you this in a second, but a lot of the patents are just in trademarks. So that's not a patent. They just focus on trademarks and branding, kind of like Coca-Cola. That I think the only trademark Coca-Cola has is on their bottle shape or something like that. Wow. One of the interesting things is, I ask, every expert I come across, like, why hasn't this been done before? Because you think of it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, disposable cartridges gives you a gallon of beer, unlimited variety type of thing. And it was said to me that every single person has made something like this in the past has sold out their patents to Miller or Anheuser-Busch or Heineken, and the technology has been shelved because they know that this can do something crazy for the industry and give the power back to the craft brewers. We had that opportunity multiple times in the 7 figures, and we would not sell our patents because we just didn't want to see the technology be shelved.
So
awesome. Good for you guys.
Yeah, great for you guys. So tell us a little bit about what exactly this is. For people who have no idea what we're talking about right at this very second, tell me what this is.
Okay, so think of it right now. If you want a beer, you got to go to the grocery store or to a local pub, and you buy beer, and everything that carbonated beverages come in are in hard, rigid containers. Okay. And so that's how beer's always been done: glass, aluminum, kegs, all that stuff. What we did is we looked at the DraftMark product that failed. It's been considered a big failure. They're pulling all the product off the shelves. And we looked at why did that fail and what can we do better so that we can basically succeed where it's failed. The technology on DraftMark, by the way, is unbelievable. It's awesome. The execution was horrible. So the 3 things where it failed and where we improved upon, and I'll answer your question after this, but DraftMark, it didn't have variety. It had 5 brands of their beer, and that's it. So no one's going to buy a dispenser without variety. So we made ours basically open source or crowdsourced to where you can fill ours with a simple adapter. You don't need really expensive equipment like bottles. So literally anybody from homebrewers all the way up to Sam Adams can fill their beer in these things. The second thing was convenience. Their cartridges you can only find in grocery store shelves. In some weeks they wouldn't even have the Draft Mark canisters because the local grocery store would not have it. So that really made people mad, and guys like Kevin would just not buy it ever again. And then the third one really is quality. And people like Anheuser-Busch and Mass beer because it's cheap and because you can buy a whole bunch of it and give it out to friends. But they're not willing to pay that premium for a dispenser just to drink cheap beer. They like it because it's cheap. So what we wanted to do is focus on the best beer in the industry because that would justify a price investment. So to answer your question, what we've created is gallon flexible disposable cartridges that lay flat, they ship flat. You can buy 500 gallons that you can store in your closet instead of a warehouse. And anybody can fill them with their beer. So you fill this bag. It's not like Franzia bag. It's 100 times stronger and all these other qualities. It's made specially for beer. But you fill this bag. You put it in a box. You can customize the cartridge. So you can put whatever beer you want, customize it, easily trade it with your friends. And then our dispenser sits right on your kitchen countertop. Kind of looks like a Keurig machine. It has a lot of stainless steel involved in it. And you have access to fresh draft beer. The machine pressurizes. It keeps it cold. So you're always going to have your favorite beer ice cold right on your fingertips. For guys like Alejandro, he can have it in his Cheerios every morning.
Yeah, depending on its flavor, I'm sure. So that's really cool, man. Now, was there anybody else that's in this space, or are you guys pretty much trying to tackle this issue in a comprehensive way that nobody's really tried before?
I think Steve is frozen.
Steve is frozen.
Yeah,
I think he made a post to go have some beer.
There you go. He's like, I'm out, guys. That's what we talked about too much. So to kind of pick up a little bit where he dropped off and this is right now you can go to let me make sure that I have this URL correctly here. It's www.sy as in Yankee NEK system.com. And that'll take you to their Kickstarter page. And now, once you're on the Kickstarter, obviously you can be a part of that. We encourage people who, who either do or they don't drink and think that it would be a good gift for somebody. There's always a room. There's always a way. And obviously, if you're over 21, and have fun with that. It looks like we have Steve back on the line. So, Steve, I asked a question that broke the internet. So we'll move along here. Approximately, how long can people expect to get their beer once they have last placed the order into the system?
Yeah, so we launch our Kickstarter June 16th. It lasts for 30 days, and then it really is all about perfecting and refining the technology we have. So it's extremely extremely consumer oriented. So the cool part about backing our Kickstarter campaign is like we're using those folks that back us as like our supreme test market, and we'll get their feedback, what they like, what they don't like, and integrate their thoughts into the final design. It'll ship by 1Q15. I don't want to promise anything earlier because I've seen so many Kickstarters that promise it and then they're delayed. I think around February, March will be a really good time. Spring will be back in season, and then you'll have access to your beer then.
Awesome. Now, regards to the Kickstarter, what sorts of price, price levels are you looking at? Like a price range, $1 to $500, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, so we haven't announced it yet. The price will be around $300. We have to wait this week to get one more quote back from our suppliers just to be really, really sure that the price will be what we want. And $300. It's not going to be the mass market appeal to everyone, but for the home brewers that we're launching to, and we're focusing strictly on home brewers as a way that they never have to clean bottles again. They can put their own, Kevin's Crazy Ale labels on their cartridge. But the reason we're launching it to them, they pay thousands of dollars for home homebrew equipment, and so $300 isn't even a blink of the eye, at least to most of the people that we've done market research with. So after we can launch it, we validate the technology, future models will start coming down in price.
All right. I mean, I'm a member of Jefferson County Homebrewers Club down here, and we'd definitely like to have you come out to a future meeting and, you know, kind of like show off the Synek system just so everybody can kind of get a look and everything like that, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest, you know, with our group. And, you know, again, it's just an awesome concept, and you know, I definitely wish you guys all the best with this. This is very exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I guess to ride the humble train just for a second, you know, the whole concept of anything crowdsourced or you know, whatever word you want to call it, you know, this technology is only going to be as good as the people that get on board with it, because the more people that are on board, the more brands that are available. So it's like if people really want to see a change in the industry and they want to kind of believe the same thing that we do about getting the power back to the brewers, like this is something, a new technology that we're not trying to make $1 billion off of. We're just trying to make everybody else in the industry successful. Right now we have about 400 breweries worldwide that are just waiting for this thing to be validated before we start shipping the empty cartridges to them to start being filled beforehand. But we can't get there unless we have a really big launch and a lot of people, you know, supporting it from the start.
So that's really exciting, you know, because we want to drive home that it's not just U.S. beer. It's you can get beer if somebody goes yes and even Ivanhoven or whatever. Like there's some crazy beer in some German place. You're speaking to the world stage, and that's really cool because people get to experience those unique beers, and that's a bigger market potentially for smaller breweries to serve a bigger audience, and that's really what it's, you know, that's what's cool for me about it. I don't drink, but that is cool from that perspective, to help out the businesses and stuff like that who have a great product and their customers like it, and they could probably scale up if they had a system like yours that could distribute it properly. Because, you know, you walk into a grocery store like you were talking about, and they set up they being, you know, the stores, they set up the shelves a certain way so that it appears a certain way, and everything's all there for a reason, and if their particular product doesn't fit that scheme or whatever, then it's not going to be shown. So that's very difficult. So do you have any idea of the estimated? Okay, so we already asked this. So what in your mind did you expect this kind of response from the community for this product?
I expected a lot bigger pushback because this is something new, something kind of different. It's been tried before and it's failed. People see this and they're like, oh, it's like Franzia or bagged wine. And then when they actually get to touch it, see how it works, they're like, wow, this is completely different. This is so much better. Like, this beer tastes amazing. And it really is. I mean, when people start getting on board, it's when they start to hear our vision and they see that, you know, we're interviewing brewers and we're partnering with brewers and everything we talk about is on the brewer side. That's when we start to get that pushback, you know, change, and we get advocates for us.
It's just one quick thing. So, for example, if I travel to Seattle, Washington, and I go to a local brewery that's, you know, really popular out there, for example, and I find something that I really like, if that brewery is, you know, for example, participating in basically the Synek program,
yep,
would I be able to like go to their website and order them, place an order and have them ship me, you know, a container or two to use back here in St. Louis?
Yeah, and that's the ultimate dream of what we're doing. You know, right now the laws are really finicky in terms of what you can and can't ship across state lines and direct to door and all that stuff. But the laws are going to change, just like the wine industry did when it was good for agricultural, small business, and all that. And when you can ship your long distance, you're not going to ship it in big, bulky bottles and cans that are really heavy and all that. You're going to ship it in really sleek, durable packages, and that's our system. So yeah, absolutely. Our dream is, you know, you're sitting on your mobile phone and you order beer from a bar and brewery in San Diego or New York, and it knows what you want to drink, and it gives you beer recommendations, and it features beers to you. I mean, it's all about we're really creating like a social network or a social community through this technology. So you know all the beers around the world. And just to touch on this, because I always get this question real quick, this is also something where everybody in the industry right now can win. This is something that distributors can ship more of because it's twice as thin and it's lightweight and it's easy to transport. And this is something that even retailers can benefit off of because more people that buy craft beer buy 3 times more beer in retail stores, and they can ship or hold twice as much product on their shelves. So it's something that where if distributors or retailers want to participate, they can win. Everybody wins. If they don't, there will be opportunities that we can on a smaller scale to ship around them, like the instance Kevin just mentioned.
Awesome.
Wow, very cool. I'm glad you.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
If you guys let me.
No, you can't. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Ollie.
Well, I'm done. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was gonna ask where do I put my 300, but never mind. Just kidding.
That's coming.
I'm actually curious in regards to the device in your house. So, will I need any special connection, or is it pretty much just plug and play to the electricity? That's question one. Another question in regards to the same: are any disposable materials that I use, are they reusable in some sort of fashion? Because I hate to throw all of those Keurig cups to the landfill. That is the unit self-cleaning? Does it have a self-cleaning mechanism? All those things that they've been working on, the Keurig systems and the like, that made it a lot more easy for me to maintain that type of appliance.
Yeah, so from a usability functionality standpoint, that's all the things we're going to be perfecting over the next 4 or 5 months before we start shipping. But yeah, all you need is a wall outlet. You plug it in. That keeps your beer cold. It also lights up so you can see the beer through the window of what you're dispensing. So that's kind of cool. The first model will have a CO2 tank, probably either a 12-ounce like SodaStream or a 20-ounce if we feel like people are doing higher volume dispenses. It'll be extremely easy to clean. That's why we wanted it. That's why we designed it the way it was, with no tubes, no coils, no big filling lines that you have to try to run special chemicals through. You simply open the door, unscrew the tap, rinse it out with water, you're done. The cartridges, they're recyclable, they're not reusable. Sure, people will find ways to clean them and all things. If they can, great. We're not trying to make money off the cartridges. This isn't a razor blade model. Where the cartridges will cost just as much as bottles, so it's not going to break the bank. We just have to say that because if someone were to not do a good job cleaning it and get sick, like we told you, don't reuse it.
Right. Right.
So,
yeah.
Trying to reuse this like 5 times. All right, you're making your own yeast in there at this point. You're creating, creating another disease.
If you have a speck of dust or dirt in there, I mean, it's just a petri dish for bacteria. So.
Now you keep mentioning soda and like champagne, all kinds of bubbly carbonated drinks. Will people be able to use this as a soda dispenser, for example, instead of, because not everybody wants... SodaStream is cool. It's a cool product, but sometimes you don't always get the taste you're looking for. So would people be able to put like Coca-Cola and just put this in the system if they wanted to, for example?
Yeah, I mean, they could. I'm not trying to get in the dogfight that SodaStream and Keurig, who just bought did the cold brew, whatever, for soda thing. I don't even know. I haven't focused on that. But, yeah, I mean, feasibly you could. I don't expect that people would, just because, plastic is 5 cents. Ours is going to be a little bit more just because, we don't have the mass quantities. So the cost of our cartridge doesn't really leverage off the really cheap cost of soda.
Okay.
Champagne, I don't know how the hell that'll be filled up, but
yeah. I was just curious, I mean,
down the road.
Kids, that's one thing you got to worry about is, this being on the countertop and kids, tapping into it. If you could just like swap your cartridge out for, okay, we're going to put the soda in there for Johnny's birthday party or something like that.
Right.
Look at this, pour your own soda stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some liability issues, but if a kid can open a refrigerator and grab a beer, I think maybe there's like a lock on the tap where the kids can't like use the tap. There will be ways that we can get around that.
Yeah, it's like, let's not get too crazy, all right? Kids can get a hold of alcohol right now as it is, so let's not, let's not go out the deep end here. So, with that, I'm sorry, guys, we do have to put an end to this wonderful talk. Thank you so much for being a guest. You're not off the hook yet. We'd like to keep you on just for a little bit longer while we do our normal application picks of the week, where people, get to hear what our application picks are for people to use on their favorite gadgets, whether it be iPads, whether it be PCs, whether it be phones, whatever the case may be is. And Kevin has an app by, again, a wonderful developer. He kind of got on me for not talking about him enough, so I'm talking about him now. Andy Long, he's a fantastic developer. If you want to hire him for something, do it. You can find him on Twitter. That's the best place to get a hold of him. Andy, I think, _Long. I'll have it in the show notes. But just look for Andy Long, and you'll find him. Great guy. Kevin, go ahead and tell about the application.
All right. So as many of you know, last week I was in Kansas City for the Kansas City Developer Conference. And some places, I was kind of curious, I don't really know Kansas City area that well. I want to make sure I know how to get back to my car. So, I had the Park It app from Andy Long on my Windows Phone device, and I used it. It was really the first time because, I know my way around St. Louis. I know where I park and all that stuff. But in Kansas City, I was able to use it really for the first time, and I have to say, it worked really well. So if you got a Windows Phone and you're not using the Park It app for various reasons, if you travel and you're in unfamiliar areas, it's definitely worth it. So it's free. I think there's a way that you can, it's ad supported, so you could probably drop 99 cents or $1 and get the ads removed in a possible future upgrade, unless he's already got that implemented in the current free version. So definitely Park It.
Park it.
Park
Yeah.
it.
Beep, beep. Park. Alejandro, you're up.
My app pick of the week is definitely Udemy. Udemy. I love to learn all kinds of things, and particularly Udemy, which is available for the iPhone and Android. There's no native Windows Phone app yet, but you can use the mobile app, which is really good too. Just go to udemy.com. You can sign up with a Facebook account if you don't want to open a new account, and they have topics for programming Android, programming in PHP, intro to programming, iOS development. There's a really popular course on iOS which takes you through developing 14 different applications. There is development to learn game development, and there's pretty much also anything for any taste. There's creative courses on Photoshop, Illustrator. I think that there's no limit on what they post. If you want to write courses, you can too. The one thing I want to highlight about the mobile app versus going to the website and otherwise, the app has a kind of a Easter egg section where you can tap on Discover, and this courses, well, at first impression you're like, oh my god, this is $50 or this is $100. Every time there is a U.S. holiday, which seems like we have one or two every month here in this country, every time there's a U.S. holiday, there is some type of big sale. So, for example, the iOS course I was talking about originally was selling for $500. I scored it for $9.99.
Whoa.
Nice.
Just keep an eye on those. They're pretty good. Once you have it here, it syncs to any other devices you're using, so you can open it on your computer, you can open it on your mobile browser or your mobile device and hook it up to your car and listen while you drive. So udemy.com, UDEMY.
Awesome.
Nice. So Scott, or sorry, not Scott, I was just looking at something else. So Steve, what is your application pick of the week?
He may not have one.
Oh, microphone. There we go. I'm on now.
Microphone.
Pick of the week. Okay, I like Asana.com. I don't know if you can see that. ASANA.com. They also have an app. I know it's on iPhone. I don't know if it's on Android. It might be. It's a project management tool. The reason I love it, especially for small businesses, you can get 23 people on board with this at the same time, and they don't even need to be part of your organization. But what it allows me to do is, it keeps myself organized, which gives me a list of everything that I can do for the week. I can even put on the calendar and everything. But I can also see and communicate with my entire team right from my phone. So I'll get like a message update when somebody completed a task or when things change. And you can assign managers to certain tasks so you know exactly who's supposed to get it done, and you can see when they check it off and it gets done. So it's kept me really organized, way more efficient. ASANA, that app.
Nice.
We'll check it out. Yeah.
That's iOS and Android.
Do you have to pay for the service, or is it free?
Up to 23 members, I think, or like 21, it's free, and then after that, it's a small fee or whatever.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, it's incredibly cool and really, really like slick. Like with my team, I haven't even met like 3 of the members on my team. I've been working with them for a year, and we've never been more efficient ever than anybody else because it's just constant checking and updating, and they can see when I assign new tasks to them, that type of stuff.
Awesome.
It was developed for programmers so they could all stay on the same page with different code writing.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll have to definitely check that out. Well, as many of you know, thank you very much again, Steve. We appreciate that. That's a unique application. I think people are going to get a lot of use out of that. As many of you know, I use the Windows Phone and the Windows ecosystem. So one of my main complaints about the new Windows Phone 8.1 release, it's still in beta, obviously. It's not released to the masses, but the developer preview is the podcast application. We do a lot of podcasting. I would like to see a good podcasting app. So in the wake of the new version called Bing Podcast, which is I'm not a huge fan of, I would say here are 2 applications that could take the old application's place, which is Bringcast, and that is on the Windows Phone Store, and I believe that is a $4.99 app, but it's totally worth it. Also, Podcast with an exclamation point, you can get that for your Windows 8.1 device and your Windows Phone device. So both of those, you can find us there. If we're not directly in the system, you can grab our RSS feed and then put it in there, and then boom, you'll always have it. It's really nice. It doesn't have any playback issues, so I definitely recommend it. So if any of you out there like to listen to podcasts and are frustrated with the other podcasting app that took over and then the one that fell away from the Windows Phone side, yeah, there you go. Alejandro's showing that to the audience, our visual audience, and then the audio audience can't see that, so now I'm explaining it. Again, check that out. I think you guys will like these 2 applications a whole lot. Now is our announcements of the week. So, Alejandro, go ahead with your first announcement of the week.
So I just wanted to remind you that WWDC, the Apple Premier and major developer conference, is coming up on June 2nd, which is a Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is noon in our Central Standard Time Zone. And just like JJ did for the Surface Pro 3, I'm taking a day off to do live coverage. Yeah, I'm taking the whole day off just to do live coverage of that, because we want to see if the iPhone 6 comes to life, what iOS 8 is going to bring to the table, macOS 10.10, is there an iWatch, is there an iThis, iThat, so... Don't worry,
Alejandro, I'll be there with you, brother, man. I'll be there with you.
I know.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. You know, I wish you guys could have been there with the Surface Pro 3 announcement. That was a lot of fun. It was cool. I had a chance to, on a bunch of occasions, get in front of an audience that I never knew that was going to happen. But you guys know me. I don't mind talking in front of people, that's for sure. So hopefully we can talk to some more people in that ecosystem and really get people more involved there. Also, Alejandro has started up the Midwest BizSpark user group, and we're going to be heavily involved in that effort as well. More details to come on that. Don't if that tickled your fancy, just hit us up and we'll put you on a list and we'll make sure you get the pertinent details as they come out. The next thing I want to talk about is this last Small Business Week. Steve, I know that you being a local guy and with the Kickstarters and with the small businesses and stuff, I think they're crucial to not only the community, but they're just crucial overall. And meeting with all these different small business professionals over the last week and the Small Business Support Week, it was really cool. So I just want to give some shout outs to some people at Carpel Solutions. I want to say thank you to Matt from Carpel Solutions. He's the CEO. Patrick Quinn as well. I want to say thank you. Also from Blade Technologies, John and Tori did a fantastic presentation. I also wanted to let everyone know about some upcoming basically, it's not your normal go-to experience for presentations, but it's something called Positioned for Wealth. It's a small business virtual summit with the likes of Tomiko Cooler, Dr. Robert, I think that's Walkins, and just many more. You'll learn how to sustain your business in any economy, attract and retain more clients, uncover hidden profit opportunities, increase revenue, and more. I know that's kind of a blanket statement, but that does run through June the 17th through June the 19th. If you want to find out more information, go ahead and do a search there for www.positionedforwealth.com. That's going to be in our show notes as well. Also, I wanted to talk about there's a innovative company around St. Louis that are trying to hook up people that are looking to get smart manufacturing jobs. Now, that might sound too sexy to you guys, but if you're out of work or know somebody who needs a job, go to www.innovatevms.org. I met with Mark Bowers. He's actually a mentor there, and he trains people to work in the smart manufacturing place, and that is hands down awesome. I mean, there's a lot of people out of work or underemployed, and if you can be a part of the future of innovation and smart manufacturing, give this guy a look up. Again, that's Innovate VMS. And then I wanted to also give a shout out to the Microsoft Store one more time for recurring events. You can find the Windows 8.1 Fundamentals. There's a Girl Scout workshop, a Boy Scout workshop. There's a Windows Phone, basically where they show you how to use it. There's an NBA 2K14 tournament, a FIFA 14 tournament, Xbox Music Experience. They teach you how to use Windows Word products and Office products and everything of the like. Just go to your local Microsoft Store to find out more information by Microsoft Store /St. Louis, and that's STLOUIS.com to register for any of these events. Most of them are free, and you don't really have to schedule. They usually just have them going on. But I know that was a whole mouthful, so I hope I covered everybody. If I missed you, I do apologize. I'll hit you up on the next go around. But it was a huge week for us. I got to talk to a lot of people in a lot of very important positions, and basically there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike for STLTechTalk in the future of bringing employers and employees and businesses and connecting everybody. We're going to be covering stories just like this one that we covered tonight from Steve Young and Synek. And we're really looking forward to meet you guys. So if you want to be a part of the conversation, hit us up, STLTechTalk at STLTechTalk.com, or we're all over the internet on the social media sites as well. So, guys, was there anything else that you had and you wanted to say before the end of the show? Alejandro, you go first.
I, like you, want to thank everybody for last week. I think we had an awesome week. Thanks for everybody who stopped by. And definitely hit us up on the social networks. We have a lot going on. If you want to participate in any way or fashion, if you have any ideas, we welcome all of them alike.
Absolutely. Kevin?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a big week and a lot of excitement coming on in the future here for STL Tech Talk. And, Steve, again, definitely thank you for coming on, sharing some time with us, and talking about this awesome product you guys got coming out. It's real exciting.
Cheers, mate.
Real exciting.
Absolutely. And Steve, if people want to find more information about you that's not watching the audio podcast, how can they find out more about you and your organization?
Yeah, I mean, go to the website like you just described, Synek System, SYNEK-System.com. We also have another cool video podcast where we interview brewers across the world. That's craft-conscious.com. We've done 104 interviews with brewers in 7 different countries. So pretty cool if you're interested in beer, want to learn more about the business side of it.
Wow. Whew. I didn't mean, it's insane how many people enjoy that subject. You know, it's intense. There's a lot of people who enjoy it, even listening to it, watching it, and all the like. It's just like technology. You know, people are into it. It's very cool. So thank you again, Steve Young with Synek. We hope your Kickstarter takes off and everything works out great for you. You've been a great guest. Thank you so much for being on the show. It means a lot to us. And thank you to all of our fans. We love you, and thank you for your support of the show. So from the entire STL Tech Talk crew, stay frosty. We're out.
Cheers.